Everybody can read it, okay?
10-4.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Ten
So
four.
this document is a Bill of Rights for the city of Pineapple. Okay, so this is not a PD Bill of Rights. You will actually see some of the things inside of this document that completely, not completely, but just make it fair across the board. Okay. Um, this publication, it states that the accessibility of publication is available through Discord. That's actually going to change. It's going to be available online on our government website. Um, publication can only remain within the Pineapple government. If you see it elsewhere, please bring it up to open a ticket and bring it up to the community manager, community manager Fink. Sorry. This publication outlines the Bill of Rights of the City of Pineapple. It establishes the basic rights for all members of the city. This document is second to the U.S. Constitution, which means the Constitution is held above all. Okay, so your Fourth Amendment, your Fifth Amendment, all that stuff is still intact, and it's still being utilized. Um, it applies to all members actively assigned to or operating in an attached capacity with the City of Pineapple's legal system. So this means all court cases, any government or not government, but any legal system, meaning the LSPD, any laws. This trumps any law written in our penal code and our let's see, our SOP. Okay. The city laws come before this document. The U.S. Constitution comes before this document. So if you see anything that's in this document and it contradicts any city laws or anything in the Constitution, you are to disregard it and go directly off of the city laws or the Constitution. Does that make sense? Any questions on that end?
Nope. Negative.
Okay.
Nope. Negative.
Any changes or questions about this publication, I need you to open a ticket and speak with government directly. If you see anything in here that might be an error or something that does contradict, this is the first time it's being published. We've had government skim through it. We've also had myself and Doug and DJ and different people look through this to look for any flaws. We've gone over it so many times, but everybody can make mistakes. So if you see something, please point it out. This is the right step forward. We believe in the direction of the city. It makes it fair. It all the gray areas that were in the rules and within the SOP and the penal code are now black and white. If there is anything that you can think of that needs to be added to it, also please reach out in the same manner. All right, so we'll go to chapter 1. There are 5 chapters. I'm only going to go over 4. Chapter 1 being the smallest. Chapter 5 is for our detective unit. As you can see, it's about raids. That doesn't directly affect you until we get to the point, and you'll receive a full debrief on what we're doing anyway. So this document will be available publicly, so you can go back and read the raid section for your personal knowledge. However, today, to shorten up the training because we want to get back out there on the streets, we're not going over chapter 5. All right, chapter 1, the founder's vision. This just basically states again that this is a legal document that has trumped any policies, any SOP policies. This document trumps in a court of law. It levels the playing field, so we're not just using California Penal Code. We're using this in reference to our LSPD Penal Code, but this comes first. All right. City rules comes first. We already talked about that. So chapter 2. Basic rights. Basic rights are defined as freedoms in which all humans are considered to be entitled to, right? So life, liberty, equality, fair trial, etc. We're going to go through what some of those common basic rights are. Life, liberty, equality, that's obvious, but the more in-depth ones are right to a fair trial. So a trial that is conducted fairly and justly with an impartial judge, and it's underneath the appropriate constitution or other laws. You're afforded your rights as per our penal code, which will also be a public document that will be posted on the website as well. So citizens can now view the penal code, whereas before they could not. We'll go over the penal code after this. If you wish to make a lawsuit, you must submit a lawsuit to the court within 48 hours of the time of the event. So if something happens and you, as an officer, need to submit a lawsuit, you have 48 hours from that event. Otherwise, that event is null and void, and you cannot open up a lawsuit. Statute of limitations for that event is 48 hours. So if something happens, throw up a thing into the Discordia and contact for a lawyer. Fill out your form, and that starts your time for your lawsuit. Right to a speedy trial. This is really important, especially in the city with a court system that drags ass, right? So we're trying to put pressure on the lawyer system and the justice system to move faster. All citizens have a right to a speedy trial in which your case will be reviewed by a lawyer, public defender within a timely manner. We're still sketching out some things with public defender, so ignore that section there. We currently don't have a public defender. You have to hire a lawyer. No case should take longer than 30 days in most circumstances. You have to remember that the lawyers are not whitelisted, so these some cases are pro bono if they lose the case or they get a very small cut. Right to the right to a lawyer. So all citizens will have the right to a lawyer if they can afford one. Um, in your Miranda rights, we want to make it really important that you're not offering up a free lawyer. So you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say or do can be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one may be appointed to you if available by the state. Okay. You have to add that if available, or just take that whole last part out if you can't afford one. 2.2.4.2, after being taken to the police station. This is important, and this is important for everyone who's writing their reports and booking a suspect. A lawyer will have up to 10 minutes to arrive after the arrested suspect reaches out on both Yellow Pages or Discordia or Twitter or whatever they need to contact their lawyer. If you have a preference to a lawyer, they have to be able to make the phone call and attempt to contact their lawyer. You have they're entitled to speak with their lawyer after they arrive for a total of 10 minutes. So you're talking about your booking taking an extra 20 minutes if they have a lawyer available. This 20 minutes does not go against their time served, and they have to understand that if they request a lawyer. You need to let them know, as long as it takes your lawyer to get here, he has 10 minutes, but if it takes less than that, you're adding this on to your time in jail. It does not change. Okay. The purpose of calling a lawyer is for them to be able to talk to the lawyer and understand their rights while they're being booked and sentenced, right? So this doesn't mean that you get into an argument match with the lawyer on why you're charging something. You can talk to the lawyer, and the lawyer can inform you that, hey, per section 2.5 of the Bill of Rights, you can't charge them for that, or you don't have enough evidence based on this to charge them for this charge. And they can just give you that reality check, like, hey, you're about to fuck up and it's going to be a lawsuit. It's on your ass if you move forward. And that's the purpose of having lawyer in the jail cells. Okay. So the lawyer will then will text PD when they arrive on scene of Mission Row, and we will escort them to a room, one of the investigation rooms, where they can have a seat with their client and talk freely without a police officer being in that room. Okay. Everybody clear on that point? Because that's actually really important.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Clear.
I'll take silence as an agreement. If you have any questions, please speak up.
I actually have a
Right.
question.
Go ahead.
So when it comes to the lawyer, so they're there. What happens if they try and make a kind of deal with us there? What do we do then? Like if they come and say,
You can,
"Oh, can you do this for my suspect?" I talked
right.
to them.
Yeah. And it's up to you. You know what you're charging your suspect for. And if you are confident that you have all the documentation necessary for that, then you move forward with that move. The lawyer can just suggest things to you that they would like in reference to their client. But again, this isn't a trial. This isn't the lawyer pleading a case. This is the lawyer saying, hey, I don't think you really have the right probable cause to have searched that. So if you would like, you can drop their sentence by X, Y, and Z, and we won't take this up in a court of law, right? So that's the purpose of the lawyer being there. Is in my understanding, I would appreciate that if a lawyer points it out before I fuck it up, right? It can cause chaos, especially if we have lawyers that don't know the law, in which you have to sit there and let them know, you're incorrect, and they're going to be booked for X, Y, and Z. Your time is up. Make sure you're keeping tabs of their time so that we don't have lawyers sitting in there for 30, 45 minutes, because that's going to ruin the RP for everyone else, right? So there's time limits. Make sure you are in charge. The lawyer will try to get by and get more time out of you if you allow it. But our limit is 10 minutes to contact them. Once they're on site, that 10-minute starts. So it's not 20 minutes in total. If it takes them 2 minutes to get there, they still only have 10 minutes to talk to their client. Got it?
Also,
Yes, thank you.
just because they think that you shouldn't be charging with that, and if you know you're right, then you don't have to listen to them.
Correct. Yeah, it's just a suggestion. So everything that you're speaking with the lawyer You know, the lawyer knows what they're going to do once they leave there if they don't get what they want for their client, right? So if the lawyer says you didn't have enough this, that, and the other, the lawyer already knows if I'm leaving here and there was no cooperation, I'm going straight to a trial and I'm going to open up a case immediately. So just know that it's going to help speed up different cases because lawyers are going to accept the case faster to be in the city and on site, right? So that was the purpose of adding that in there. Right to self-defense. This is important for you guys too. Listen to this. You have the right to defend your land and assets, including vehicles. You may use reasonable force to defend such property. If in this defense you are forced to use a deadly weapon but have no permit for the said weapon, or it's an illegal firearm, you will still be charged as such for those criminal offenses. So if you show up to a scene and they claim self-defense, there's got to be significant evidence that it was self-defense, right? So not just the criminal's perspective, but maybe some bystanders, right? Ask certain witnesses, and if you come to a conclusion that it was self-defense, these are the statutes right here. They have a right to self-defense. Okay, so don't charge them for brandishing or whatever you have because they can use this against you in the court of law, right?
I got a question on that.
Yep.
Is shooting and killing someone reasonable force to defend their car? A human life to a vehicle?
Right. So if the defense, that kind of answers it in the next section. If in this defense you are forced to use a deadly weapon, you know, you still have that right to defend your assets. I mean, it's black and white. So even if it is just a car or whatever, it's their personal asset, it's their vehicle, it's their property. So they have the right to defend it. And if that means taking someone else's life because they feel threatened, it's kind of like your SOP for deadly force. Then if you come to a conclusion there's significant evidence on scene to prove that this was self-defense, then they're bound by the Bill of Rights to not be charged for that murder.
Okay, very clear.
Understood. All right. No unfair detainment. This one's crucial for you guys as well. No citizen should be detained or arrested without probable cause of committing a crime. That we know what the probable cause definition is. If you don't, it's a reasonable suspicion that a crime has been committed. Citizens can be detained for safety or investigative purposes if they are on scene of the crime. Please mute your mic for me. Somebody is hot micing. All right. Once being arrested, it is the officer's duty to properly
Hello, fella.
impound any vehicle
fella,
on
you
scene of
guys
the
good?
crime. If you
Yeah, we're
don't
good.
impound the vehicle
Okay,
and
we
it gets
just seen you guys
chopped,
were
we
out
will
front,
be
so we didn't know
responsible
if you
now,
fellas were
according to the
dead
Bill of
or
Yeah,
Rights,
we announced we were
for
going to
the
go
whole
up a
value of
channel
that
and y'all
chopped vehicle,
ignored us.
right?
Okay,
So
yeah, well,
they
there's a
can
lot of
sue
talking
us
going
for
on
the
here. Let's
value
do
of their
what we can.
vehicle because we didn't
Alrighty,
follow the Bill of
fella.
Rights.
Well, yeah, we're
Okay?
good. We're
It's
just
also
up
in
a
our
channel.
SOP. You have to impound the vehicles.
If you need
What
us,
I
we're up
would
a channel, alright?
suggest is
Alright, fella.
calling Benny's
Alright, see you,
and
fella.
putting that liability on Benny's. Document it in your report who showed up to take care of that vehicle, and if it gets chopped after you leave the scene from that incident, that Benny's employee will be responsible for whatever happens after that. Okay. Stop and identify statute. This one's important because we have a lot of this in the city right now. So this statute authorizes any trained law enforcement officer in the city of Los Santos to ask for you to provide identification to them if they have a reasonable suspicion to you that you have committed a crime. Okay, so this isn't an argument with the suspect. If you think they've committed a crime, you ask for them to identify, and if they don't, we have a charge on the penal code, failure to identify, right? Refusing a lawful command. If you think that they have committed a crime, you don't have to prove to them of your reasonable suspicion. You just have to have it for legal purposes during a lawsuit, right? So we're going to open up that report and we're going to want to see what your reasonable suspicion was to stop them and ask them for their identification. So if you walk up to Legion Square and no crime has been committed, you can't force somebody to give you their ID, right? That's the same thing that Doug was just talking about the F6 menu powers. You can't just walk up to somebody and grab their ID out of their pocket and they don't know, okay? It's now against the Bill of Rights and we can be sued. All right, if an officer asks you to leave a scene, you must comply, step back to where they would like you to stand. Before, it was just very simple, leave the scene, leave the scene. Now, people are gonna want to, record stuff or document stuff. We're okay with that, but they need to stand in a safe area and you are responsible for telling them where they need to stand. If you don't give them an opportunity to stand where you want them to stand, you can't charge them with obstruction of justice because they won't leave the scene. Okay? If you don't want them to stand anywhere, tell them leave the scene completely. You have to leave the scene 100%. Or if you're going to stay here, please stand over here out of the way so that you're safe, right? All right. Stop and frisk orders. This one's important. We just went through a whole bunch of stuff with this one. So a stop and frisk is defined as an action in which LSPD will stop all individuals affiliated with a certain organization in search of a person or illegal contraband. So a stop and frisk can only be issued when said organization commits multiple felonies in one day. So don't request a stop and frisk from your commissioner team unless this is met. Okay, so we'll look at our penal code and we'll see what general felonies and serious felonies fall underneath this. And if they commit multiple of these, which means more than one in one day, then they can have a stop and frisk order initiated on their organization. Citizens have the right to know when a stop and frisk order has been issued and lifted. So citizens will be notified via yellow pages. This is new. Before, it was a unknown fact. If you were part of an organization, you didn't know if you had a stop and frisk, and you didn't know if it was up or not. And that's a big conundrum because you're stuck in that situation if you're in that organization. And also, if the suspect's already been caught and we haven't lifted it yet, the organization can say, hey, look, you guys already got what you were searching for. Get rid of the stop and frisk, right? They can hold us accountable to that. All right, so be careful when we initiate these commissioner team, and if you're requesting one, make sure that the criteria is met first. Any questions on chapter 2 before we moved into chapter 3?
I actually have another one.
Go ahead.
So I believe I don't know. Is there, so like you were saying, when you ask them to leave the scene, if they don't, what is there a certain fine you can give them if they refuse?
Yeah,
to
obstruction of
leave?
justice and
Obstruction of
refusing a lawful command. Yep.
Okay.
All right. And you'll see once I go to the penal code, it's not like before. So before, Johnson, do we have a copy of the before penal code? See if you can find that, because I want to show people the difference. I don't think they understand the
I
complexity.
think I
of
might
this.
have it.
Give me, if you can, just pull it up and share it with everybody in LSPD chat. You can do it now, and then we'll go to it later. All right, questions on chapter 2. We're gonna move to chapter 3. Once,
Do we
twice.
leave the people in soft
I
cuffs
have a
when they're
quick question.
talking to the lawyer?
Yes. So to answer the soft cuff question, you can take them out of cuffs. They're in a green zone, right? They're in green grass, and they're complying with you to have the opportunity to speak to their lawyer, right? They have the right to speak to them. You can take the cuffs off of them when the lawyer is present. If they're being combative and they're not cooperative, you can leave the cuffs on and have them in soft cuffs while they're inside of that. Okay. So that's up to you, and it's case by case. That's why it's not in the Bill of Rights, because it just depends.
Okay. Chris,
Okay, I want you to answer
I'm
one more
sharing.
thing here.
Okay.
Okay, so if they call, so suppose you arrested a Dawn member, right? And if they bring their friend in a suit saying that they are lawyers, so how would our other officers? I mean, obviously I know who the lawyers are, but how they gonna know who the lawyer are? Like if that person's actually a lawyer or not?
Or phone numbers.
Yeah,
Lawyer phone
it's
numbers.
in
So you
Discordia.
guys gotta check in the Discord.
Yep, you've got to check in Discord to make sure that they're a reputable lawyer to enter the premises. We're not just letting any Joe Schmo walk up in there and try to negotiate shit. It's got to be a real bona fide lawyer. Okay. Look at Johnson's screen real quick, or look at mine. I'm mirroring his, whatever. But this is our old penal code, right? I mean,
What's up?
everybody's probably already seen this before, but if you can scroll down, it tells you just the so basic stuff on what you need to know to book somebody, but it doesn't define what each charge is. So we'll go over that next. We need to talk about chapter 3 when we move past this. Any questions? Chapter 2. There was one more.
Yeah. Quick question. When we
Yep.
go to impound a vehicle and it's scuffed and there's no bennies, what do we do then?
Johnson.
Send it up.
Yeah, send it up. Have a admin come DB it.
And if it's no admins?
Then you
Then
document it.
document that thoroughly.
Okay.
Okay, and let the suspect know too. Let them know, like, look, man, I tried Benny's, I tried myself, I tried sending it up. I'm gonna put it in the documentation. I can move it to the PD garage if you'd like after I book you, but this is everything that I've tried to do according to your rights, right? Because they have the right for you to do it. So
Yeah.
just make sure you're putting the effort, because if it does get taken to court, we need to show that we tried every avenue to get rid of that vehicle before it was chopped or whatever happened to it, right? Good question though. All right, armed robberies, bank protocols. This one is so important. If you're not paying attention, this is what I need you to pay attention to. This is why we're here, right here. Okay. Bank protocol. All criminals are granted 2 demands. We already know that. Subject to high command approval. We already know that. All demands are only valid for 15 minutes from leaving the bank. After 15-minute grace period, the demands will be canceled and robbers will be pursued at all force. So that means that if they request no Air 1 after that 15 minutes, we're pulling out Air 1. If they don't have a vehicle that goes over 200 miles per hour and you don't have an intercept on scene, after 15 minutes, you get that damn intercept out so we can get the suspect in custody or end the scene altogether. If they haven't lost us in 15 minutes, everybody agrees, even the city during our survey that we released, that enough is enough. Okay, if they take it longer than 15 minutes, they're dipping into other people's time to RP on similar scenarios, right? Our city is too busy. You already know how many banks we get back to back to be on a chase for more than 15 minutes. So that's why this law is in effect now. It's the LSPD's responsibility to keep track of that 15 minutes. So whoever is the scene command needs to communicate 15 minutes from now is this time. At this time, all demands are broken. Okay. LSPD is obligated to uphold. Yes.
So if I chase someone more than 15 minutes, lethal authorized, am I correct?
No. No, just their demands. Just their demands.
Snow.
So if they say
okay.
Snow, if they say fair chase, no Air 1, after 15 minutes, you don't have to give them a fair chase and you don't have to leave Air 1 out. You can bring Air 1 in. Does that make sense?
But not kill suspect, am I
Nope.
correct?
Nope. Yeah, no, that's against the law, Snow.
So,
All right.
real fast, Cross, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Please be fair with this, because I know that 15 minutes you think, oh, this takes forever, and you bump it down to 10. Please don't do that. If you have to, pull a timer up on your computer, pull on your phone, something to,
Yep.
make it fair
So
for
if
them.
the criminal can prove in a court of law that their 15-minute grace period was not met, then you're screwed. And that's how it will be fair. The criminals will also be keeping track of their time because this 15 minutes is crucial for them, right?
And the 15
So-
minutes starts as soon as they get on their vehicle.
As soon as
correct?
they get in their vehicle and they take off, that's it. It starts then. Okay.
So pretty much,
I-
don't just guess. Make sure you
Yeah,
you
make
know
sure
for the
you're
fact.
right. And if you start the chase and you haven't started the timer, then it starts from when you realize you didn't start it. You don't just say, "Oh, I think we've been going for 5 minutes, so now they have 10 minutes left," right? If you don't have it strictly written down on what time you started this chase, then you need to start it from that point forward, and their 15 minutes starts then, not from when they left. Does that make sense? You've
Just
got to be
for-
fair.
Official clarification:
Yes.
the 15 minutes start when the bank robbery ends, or when they get in their car.
When they get in their vehicle.
Sometimes they're in there for like
Yeah, I know.
forever, I
When
feel
they
like.
when they take off from the scene, when they get in their
Okay.
vehicle and they hit their accelerator and you start to move, as soon as the wheels move, you're starting that timer.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay? Because it's talking about their chase. So the chase doesn't start until they leave, right? So it's only valid for their chase, all right, not the scene.
Okay.
LSPD is obligated to uphold both demands from negotiation unless criminals commit a serious felony during the pursuit of or the 15-minute grace period is over. What this means is unless they get out and shoot, and we'll go over the section for serious felonies, but unless they get out and commit a serious felony, you cannot break their demands. You cannot end their demands unless the 15-minute grace period is up or they commit a serious felony. Which means if they say no, if they don't request no repair and they go get one anyways, so be it. You can't break the demands on that. You just failed to block off the repairs. That's your fault, right? So if they didn't commit a serious felony, you cannot break the demands. And if you do, they will bring this up in a court of law and we will be sued by a bank robber. Okay, so let's keep our ducks in the row here.
Question.
Yes.
So if they don't have no repair and they go to a repair and they're in repair, are we allowed to shoot the tires out with the taser?
No,
Would that
we're
be-
not allowed.
no?
We're not
Okay.
allowed to shoot tires with tasers anymore from this point forward.
Oh, okay.
No more taser tires. That realistically, that's stupid, right? That doesn't happen IRL. A cop's not going to run up and taser tires. Okay. And then if you're shooting at their tire, that just opens up a whole nother can of worms for lethal force, right? So unless that
Yeah,
vehicle's
yeah.
coming at you, you're not supposed to discharge your weapon. So I would just leave their tires alone unless you're using spike strips. Does that clear that up?
Clear?
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
What if they don't have outside help and they steal a local vehicle or something?
What about it?
Yeah, so that is not a serious
Yeah.
crime.
So their demands would still be valid for 15-minute grace period.
Yeah, but they said no outside help, so
Oh
no
well,
outside
you
vehicle.
didn't stop them in time, right?
Damn fun.
We got to get better. We got to get better at our jobs. We can't just use technicalities to protect us when chasing suspects. We need to get better, right?
If they said
So-
no outside help and then a car rolls up like one of their friends, that's a different story. Send it up to Gov with nothing we can do immediately about it.
Yeah. So because and we're going to get to that part, right? So the criminal must disclose, this is 3.1.2, the criminal must disclose if they have outside help and how much. They also must specify if the outside help is aquatic or land-based. This is a rule and it's a law, okay? So if they're not following it, they're breaking the law and the rules. Okay? So if they do that and they get outside help even though they specify clearly that there was no outside help, then you can send it up like he said. That's a whole different story, okay? But if they steal a local vehicle, that's not outside help, and that's just on you, right? You can't break their demands. They didn't commit a serious felony. GTA is not a serious felony.
Eat and
It's a
drink.
Doug's
misdemeanor.
dead.
Okay.
Eat
All
and
right.
drink. I
Um,
can't get his ID.
please make sure you're eating, guys. Doug,
Another
make
question.
sure you're eating.
There's more of a
Are we
strategic
gonna revive
question
Doug?
or strategy.
No, we'll leave him dead.
No, Doug is fine.
Okay.
He can revive himself.
Okay. All right.
I have one more
Yeah,
question.
we gotta move. It's 10:30. Go ahead with your question really quick.
So if they're getting repair and there's like two entrances, can we block both of them and spike both entrances so they can't leave? Is that allowed if they're getting a repair there, or?
They have to be able to leave, so you can't block it off with vehicles because that
Okay.
can seem kind of like power gamey, right?
Okay.
But there's nothing that says that you can't use spike strips. If they didn't use that as a demand, no spike strips,
You can place
because
them
you
right
remember
outside?
up here, safe
think what
passage
he meant-
definition is a safe direct path to your getaway vehicle, in which time authorities will not infringe on this safe passage by tasing, shooting, spiking, etc. Once they're in their vehicle and they get away, you can use spike strips if that wasn't part of their demands. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, so
All right.
So if they go
Perfect.
for a repair and that wasn't part of their demands, we can spike.
You can
strip
spike it.
the-
Yes.
well, that's,
Okay.
that's good.
Yep. But if they say that they want a repair and you're just trying to end the chase, then you can get sued by them because you broke
Yeah.
their laws or their rights, right?
Yeah, because
Well,
we've
does
seen
that-
people going for second repairs before, and it's kind of like a
Yeah,
tasing
that's
game.
yeah,
and-
exactly. You can get out and lay spikes. That's completely justified.
Okay.
Flug?
Thank you.
That brings up a separate issue against our SOP that we can't use spike strips within city limits.
Wait.
Where does it say that in the SOP?
Wait, what?
Yeah, I don't.
I thought it was in there. No.
No, you can definitely use spikes. That's not in the SOP.
Okay.
All right. All right. Let's see. They also must specify it's outside. I said that the authorities on scene of the robbery may not use more than 3 pursuit vehicles per getaway vehicle. The only time this may be broken if demands have been canceled or expired. So when you leave the scene, there should not be chasing 7 cop cars with one vehicle, right? That's asinine. We could be using that help somewhere else. Okay. We've been doing this, but now this is a law. This is a right for the suspect as well. So keep that in mind. If you're on a chase and you get the suspect, but they turn around and they see 5 cop cars, they can then sue the PD because they had more than 3 pursuit getaway vehicles within their 15-minute grace period. Keep that in mind. It's now getting to the point where it's no longer SOP. This is a right for the robber, right?
Does it matter how many people are in that vehicle?
Nope. Doesn't matter how many people are in the vehicle. It just matters how many vehicles are chasing that one vehicle. Okay. That's why it says 3 pursuit vehicles per getaway vehicle. So it doesn't say 3 police officers per getaway vehicle, right? You can have
No,
6
I mean
cops in
on
one
the
car.
suspect side, like if they've got 4 people in one vehicle, is it still 3
Yeah.
chasing?
Yeah, it's still 3. Yep, it's still 3. It's 3 pursuit vehicles for 1 getaway vehicle. So what happens is once they get out of their vehicle and they start their 1070, you can keep units around for when it turns into a 1070 and you need backup, right? Because they can get out. A 1070 has nothing to do with pursuit vehicles. The vehicles are now out of the question. There's 4 people on foot and you have 3 officers, right? You can call in for backup and you can get that other suspect with another unit that's close by. So we need to be more logistically aware, right? We need to stage our officers like, all right, we have 3 cop cars for this vehicle. Let's get Foxtrot 5 and Foxtrot 6 to sit down a block from this chase. And you can follow us through the city, just you're not on this chase, right? So you're at a distance at all times in case we need backup or there's a 1099, you're available. But on this pursuit, there's only 3 pursuit vehicles per getaway vehicle. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Questions? Okay.
I have one quick question, another one.
Yep.
If we ask them to wait because we've got like another bank or something, and they say they'll wait for us to get more cops, and then they leave, does that break their demands?
Yes.
No.
No,
it does
if they're not waiting for you, I mean, if you give them the demands, right? They ask for it and they don't wait for your approval, that you didn't agree with their demands, then they don't have the demands. If that's what you're asking.
No, so sometimes we tell them, do you mind waiting like an extra 2 minutes after the bank's hit because we've got another back-to-back and there's not 12 cops on. And some of them will
Well,
wait,
then you
but
should
some
have,
won't.
then
They'll
you
just
should
say
be putting
yes.
it up.
Technically,
There's
they
not
don't.
12 cops,
Like,
you know?
it's not fair to them because we're ruining their RP and their time because we're not prepared.
I get what he's
Yeah.
saying. He's
So if there's
talking
not
about
12
that.
cops on and there's second bank, you can send it up. You don't have to entertain that bank, but if you choose to entertain, then they don't have to wait for you, you know?
Yep, got it.
Yep.
I also want to throw in there real quick. If there is enough officers to respond to it, whether there's 12 or not on, then don't send it up.
Yeah.
If we have enough officers that are like responding to other calls and patrolling, go respond to that bank. That's priority over patrolling.
Yep. All right. Authorities must match vehicle to vehicle. This one's important. This means that if the getaway vehicle is not off-road, then you must not be using an off-road vehicle. So if you show up to a chase because you know your dirt bike goes 250, that's against the Bill of Rights now, right? So if the vehicle does not go off-road, you should not be using a pursuit vehicle that goes off-road. Same thing when it comes to the 200 mile per hour vehicles. If it doesn't exceed 200, then you shouldn't be on the scene with the 200 mile per hour vehicle.
Does that mean we can't show up in an Explorer if they've got road vehicles only?
No, that's a different story. You can have I guess that is a good question though, but if it's specifically an off-road pursuit vehicle is what I mean. More so their dirt bikes is what this applies to, because a lot of people show up to the scene with a dirt bike because they know that the dirt bikes are OP and they go 250 for a dirt bike is unrealistic, but that's what's in our city, right?
I had a question about that actually.
Yep.
Sorry. With that being said, because the MBUs have the dirt bike as well as the Kawasaki, if let's say the people at the bank have like just 2 stretch bikes, would that mean MBU would have to swap to all Kawasaki's or just like keep their dirt bikes because there are bikes at the bank?
No.
And the stretch
If
bike's
it's not
not an
off-road.
off-road. Okay.
Yeah, if it's not off-road, then you shouldn't have your dirt bike out. So if
Alright,
it's a stretch bike, then you need the Kawasaki, or you need a land vehicle that will go that whatever mile per hours. And a lot of people, there's different bikes. If you don't know if the bike goes over 200, then it's your problem, right? Not theirs. So do with that information as you must. But if you know the vehicle goes over 200, you can even request. I mean, it's your demand. You're in control of the demands, right?
Yeah,
So if they are claiming that the vehicle doesn't go over 200, you can request that if they want their demands met,
What happened
then
to
you
him?
take that vehicle down the road to test it to see if it goes over
okay.
200, right?
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
if it goes over 200, then that falls under. Then you can say, okay, well, you allowed me to do
Hey,
that.
Mr.
Your demands
Doug,
are on.
give you
It doesn't
say-
exceed
does he have food
200.
on him or
Now
does he
we
need
can
food?
properly give you your right of having no intercept on scene, right?
Okay, so no PD dirt bikes are allowed on stretch
food,
bike
Doug?
chase.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Question though.
So what's up with the Kawasaki certification? Because a lot of us are MBU certified, but none of us are actually Kawasaki certified.
I was about to say the same thing.
So then get Kawasaki certified. Speak to the off-road SPU or whatever they're called now. Are they called SPU? Especially pursuit units?
Okay, I was just wondering
SRT?
because a
Whatever,
lot of the cars,
SRT.
chase the stretch bikes because they go through the choke points and stuff, and we
Yep.
can't fit through with the vehicles.
Yeah. So get certified. Make that a priority so that you can get certified. There's tons of us on tonight, so you just have to make that a priority. If that's going to be one of your complaints, then you have to find every way to, you know, get
What
out of
if
that.
their outside help is faster than 200, and now we don't have an intercept vehicle to chase?
Or
Ask 'em.
their outside help is off-road based, and now we don't have any dirt bikes to chase off-road.
I mean, if they have
15 minutes, I think.
if they
right?
have outside help, then I don't see any problem with you using any off-road vehicle as a backup.
Yeah, a backup, meaning what I was talking about earlier with they're further away from the scene, right? So talk to the negotiations and see if you can get that out of them. If you can't, then just have it on standby. Have an intercept ready and have an off-road ready. Right?
At
And
least
if they
go ahead.
and if they end up pulling an off-road out, the thing is we can't always use an off-road just in case their outside help has an off-road, right? That's not fair. Okay, so this needs to be more fair. We need to be smarter. We have the assets to make it happen. We just need to make sure that we're calling in the whatever
So
you need.
can we change it to where when we ask for outside help, if we could like say, is it land-based, off-road, or
So
aquatic? Because
that's
You can ask them.
You can ask them, but as the point I was gonna make, if we can prove within the court of law that we attempted to make sure that like if they had outside vehicles or not, and if they didn't give us that information, we'd be covered. The Bill of Rights wouldn't go there because we attempted and they didn't give us the information that we needed.
Yep, and we need to move on. So if you have any more questions about that, stay
Yep.
after. Liability of death. No citizen can be liable for the death of anyone unless it's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that that citizen physically committed the murder themselves or conspired to commit it. So read these sections because these are important when it talks about booking your suspects for like store robberies. For instance, the next section is no citizen can be liable to pay or serve time for repercussions of individuals that have been murdered by someone else during the commission of a crime. So when we go over the penal code, I'll show you the different sections of accessory to murder that you can charge instead of murder. All right. This is about responding to drug calls. So these are important. You've got to make sure that you understand the probable cause behind it. I'm not going to go through each one. You can open this up or you can get in touch with DOA and they can let you know what your probable cause is, but this is important to know. It lets you know who you can stop and in what scenario. So a lot of times we search people that we're not really allowed to search, and this is protecting them. So just know that if you search them and you're not allowed to, they can now sue you in a court of law. Thank you so much for your time. If you have a question,